Hi, my name's Kyle Bailey. I'm the director, writer, editor, and one of the producers of Rome. I'm doing this video so that you guys can have sort of a director's commentary, someone who actually worked on this project and created it, and just to try and communicate my point of view of things that happen, and sort of give a little technical explanation behind how we did some of the scenes, what we went through to get some of the scenes done, and just a little bit of behind the scenes information. So I'm going to be stopping the video every now and then, and hopefully showing some behind the scenes photos and unused footage if I can find it. It's sort of buried in the archives of my external hard drive, but I'll try my best when I edit this video. So let's get started. So those first few shots that you saw was B-roll that was shot by my wonderful friend and cinematographer, Zach Brewer. He really got the feel of Rome down, and we didn't even have that much time to talk about it. Like, we had a couple meetings beforehand about how I wanted it to look and how I wanted the visuals to sort of coalesce with the story. And he was actually waiting on me to come back with a piece of equipment. We were in the middle of a field shooting the fight scene, and I just told him before I left, I said, get some B-roll, just, trees, stuff like that, birds, anything you think you can. And when I put the edit together, those were the first three files that I picked out, and I put them together and color corrected them just like the way they looked. It's sort of a nice sort of sensory introduction to the world of the film. So that scene, that jump from when we were chasing behind Cody to being on ground level, it was actually shot in a hole. There was like a big hole in the ground, and Zach got, dirty and jumped in the hole, and we were using a Canon C300 with, I think, a 24mm lens or 50mm lens, I can't remember which, and he was in this hole. There were branches and brambles everywhere, and he just got a bunch of shots of Cody passing through and sort of lingering on the edges of the frame to give that sense of speed, that something's definitely happening, but you're not exactly sure what, you just know it's happening very fast. So we really tried, with the chase scene, it's sort of hard without an introduction to the world to get the particulars, but you get that someone is being chased and someone is chasing someone else. Now, this scene that we cut to, where we introduce Rome, is not in the script. It was one of the scenes that I had to hurriedly add because we lost one of our locations. We originally were planning on filming in a cabin in the woods. That's actually in the script. And it's a much lengthier introduction to Rome. Dido and Rome actually have a full-on conversation, and there's a smaller fight scene that happens after that where Rome protects Dido, and we're sort of one of the bad guys, one of the people chasing Dido actually alludes to Vale, and you get this sort of this sense of impending doom, and that was one of the things that really, really hurt the story. And I really wish we didn't have to cut it, but because of time constraints and scheduling and the fact that I couldn't find another cabin within like 3 days that would let us film, that was within filming distance, we had to scrap it. And that really sort of stops the story in its tracks, and you don't really have any idea what's going on. So that was a big problem, but we soldiered on. I figured I could try and shoehorn this scene in, where it would be enough of an introduction to get that Rome is sort of a protector. He fights for the light. He's a being of he's not an angel, but he was sort of sent by God, or some supreme force, to sort of protect the best that humanity has left. If you've seen the Book of Eli, it's very much like that. I drew a lot of inspiration from the Book of Eli and The Road, with Viggo Mortensen.
How many?
No. I'm sorry.
So this scene was shot in a cave about 80 feet over top of a cliffside edge. Me and Zach and one of my cam ops and good friends, Isaac Harrison, we were location scouting, and I said, well, I have this scene in a cave. And it just so happens that around my university there was a bunch of smaller caves that we could sort of track into and see if they worked. And this one that we picked had a really cool central pillar, and there was a really wide vista when you looked out of it, and it looked very visually appealing, and sort of was almost exactly what I had pictured in my mind when I wrote it in the script. And we took I think Zach's 5D, and we went up and climbed, and it was Zach's afraid of heights, and I don't get very scared of heights, but I was feeling it a little bit. We didn't have any climbing equipment, and it was fun, but it was very scary, and we really probably shouldn't have done it in the first place. But it looked great. We took pictures to show everyone, and I think it really worked with this scene. It was a great location. It was really fun to shoot. But we actually had to get one of the geology professors at my school to make a path so that it was safe enough for us to lug equipment up, 80 plus feet. And on the day of shooting, that was fun, bringing all that stuff up and down. But I think it worked, and I really like this scene. This scene is probably one of the truest translations from script to screen, and it sort of gives you a little bit of exposition and just enough background to get where Rome's coming from and why he's here. But again, without that previous scene that we had to cut, unfortunately, there's really not much there.
Do you know what your name means? It's a word from the old world. It means sword.
Why did you help me?
It's what I'm meant to do. I was sent here for it.
By who?
Him.
Are you like a crazy person?
Some would say that. But I have faith.
Faith in what?
and he'll show you.
So Todd Bagley, who plays Rome, was great. Really fun to work with. He's a great guy. Same with Cody. Cody was actually my roommate. And I didn't have him in mind when I wrote the script, but when I came back, I needed someone who was athletic, who could run, and who was thin enough that he looked like he had been in the apocalypse. So Cody's really thin, and he does parkour and stuff like that. So I picked him for that, and he'd never acted before, but I think he did a really good job on this. Todd has actually been in a ton of student productions at my university, and he's a great guy. He's a great actor. And I needed someone who looked a little bit older than your typical college student, and Todd sort of has this maturity to him that I think really shines through, and it was great getting to work with them. And the clothes that they're wearing, part of the budget, was for costumes and stuff. So we had a lot of fun. We went to Walmart, and a bunch of these niche clothing stores around Lexington, Kentucky, and I had about $600 or $700 to work with just for costumes, and we got a bunch of hoodies and pants and stuff like that. And I had ordered a bunch of stuff online, and I had to cut them with my production designer, Meg Case and Laura Schroyer. Really helped with that because they're great at making stuff look aged and weathered. So that was a lot of fun. I'd never gotten the opportunity to do something like that before. And Rome's sword was this actual metal katana that was really expensive, but it looked really authentic, and it was carbon steel, so you could hit it up against a bunch of different things that it wouldn't shatter or snap like the cheaply made ones. So it was fun getting to play around with a lot of the costumes and props and getting to weather them. And if you look closely, if you pause the video at certain points, you can actually see the detail a little bit in some of the props. But if I have any behind the scenes photos of what they actually look like, I think you'll really get a sense of how much work we put into the detail and the realism of making these tools and weapons look like they were actually had survived an apocalypse and were still being used.
They're here. Wait here.
Seems that you've got something of mine, traveler.
Maybe.
What is he to you? He's one of my own.
So this is Daniel Carlson. He plays Vale, who's the main bad guy, and he's dressed, very much in black, and he's got this leather jacket, which I wanted him to look cool, and sort of like he could be the leader of a biker gang, almost. And his character was really interesting to create because I needed someone who was not evil, just sort of misguided, and very much had been manipulated by the dark spirits or the darkness that had been, risen up after the apocalypse. And again, you don't get that sense much, and I'm telling you, it's because of that scene that we had to cut. Actually, the two scenes that we had to cut, but It's still there. I think it still shines through a little bit, and you can actually see he has like a facial scar, which actually the makeup on this was done by my friend Heather, and her other friend Sarah helped out. And I thought maybe I could make his scar fade in a little bit more to his face in post. But I couldn't get it to work. So it kind of stands out a little bit more than I would like it to. The day of, it looked fine. I okayed it. I said, yeah, that looks great. And then once I looked at it in post, when I started editing, I said, oh no, that's a pretty, it looks really weird. It doesn't look like a scar. It was actually a lot more, there were like red, the holes in it are supposed to be like burn scars or something like that. And that was one of the things I was a little disappointed in, was that I couldn't fix that. And it was, had I known, I would have told Heather to do it differently, but I didn't know what it would look like in the end. But I think it still looks cool. It's they did a great job with all the makeup and stuff. We were gonna have a ton of blood, but I decided against that at the last minute because we were at a Christian university, and I didn't want to jeopardize my film in any way, which is a shame because I think blood makes it a lot more real. Not a gratuitous amount of blood, but just enough to heighten the stakes.
A simple sheep who's run astray and is now in the clutches of a wolf who's been lurking in the shadows, waiting for his moment to strike.
You got the story all wrong. You're the wolf. Come to kill an innocent lamb with your pack? I am but a shepherd with a stick, but I will defend you.
Boys, you know what to do.
So this is the big fight scene that I had written with the Steadicam in mind. We used the Steadicam to film this. Which, if you don't know what a Steadicam is, it's a camera operator puts on a harness, and there's an arm that comes out, and it has two main sections with springs, and you put the camera on this pole, and it gives this sense of sort of gliding, and it's very smooth and stuff. And there's a movie called Hannah that was directed by Joe Wright. He's the director of Atonement and Pride and Prejudice and a bunch of other really great movies, Anna Karenina. And he did this movie Hannah, and it was really weird for him because it was like an action movie, and there's this big fight scene with Eric Bana in a subway, and there are all these pillars everywhere, and the Steadicam sort of weaves around in a circle and in throughout these pillars as Eric Bana takes out like 10 of these like secret agent guys. And I'd watched that film just after I finished writing the rough draft of Rome, and I thought, oh man, that'd be great if we could do like an actual Steadicam action scene like that. What I didn't take into mind, of course, was the fact that we were not going to be doing it on concrete or asphalt. We were going to be doing it in a field, and it was very grassy, and there were pockets that were higher and lower, and you'd step everywhere, and the camera would be wobbly. And my friend Taylor, he's a wonderful cinematographer and a really great Steadicam operator. I think he did a really, really good job with it, but there's just no getting around how bumpy the actual ground was. And I tried to stabilize some of the footage, and it just looked really wonky. So looking back, I probably would have done it differently. I probably would have used the Steadicam for a lot of the wide stuff, but I would have gotten close-ups so that I could cut away at certain parts of the fight scene and make it a little bit more heightened and a little bit more punchy, rather than just this gliding sort of camera. But I did what I did, and I think it looks great. Cody actually choreographed all the fight scenes, or this big fight scene. And it looks great. Everybody really took to their parts and came up with characters like, oh, well, my character has this backstory, and he would fight like this. So it was really cool getting to sort of delve into the background of a lot of like the smaller characters and just try and come up with something that the actors could use to sort of fight on screen. Admittedly, it's not a very long fight scene, but I'm still really happy with how it turned out. So that swing right there with the 2-on-1 versus Rome, Bryce is on the right and Nathaniel Taylor is on the left, and they're both great actors. And Bryce was using the bat, and the second take that we did, I think we did like 5 or 6 takes with the Steadicam, and I'm pretty sure it was the second take. Bryce swung down really hard on Todd's sword, and the the baseball bat actually snapped in half. And I was like, oh no, that's like my favorite prop. I was more worried about the prop than like, how are we going to film this? But luckily we had some extra electrical tape, and I think we actually had some duct tape, and we taped it up really quick. So I just told Bryce, like, don't hit it that hard, or if you do, like, hit it at the top or the bottom. So that was one of the little funny things that happened while we were filming this scene.
We only wanted the boy!
Why? Tell me why that boy is worth so much death to you.
I know what your kind call him. Sacred. We've had nothing but good luck ever since he came to us. I kept him close, kept him under my control so this could not happen. We needed him to rebuild, to gain control. I was wrong. He's cursed, just like you. I know the one who sent you, and I rebuke him!
Another thing was Jake Halm is the composer of the music for Rome, and I'm so happy with what Jake did. We worked really hard on getting the right feel for the music, and I didn't want it to be too crazy bombastic at the beginning. I wanted it to sort of have a slow burn, like a build up, and then once the fight scene happened, you get the drums and the jugga-juggas and stuff like that. He had worked on another friend of mine's documentary and had done the music for that, so I contacted him on Facebook and I said, hey, I have this project, Rome, would you mind doing for free the music? And he really knocked it out of the park. I'm so happy with his score, so thanks, Jake.
I see his light in you, and I am going to snuff it out.
I forgive you.
So this shot was another one of the shots that I had originally come up with. It's the last shot in the film, and it was actually the first shot that we got. It was the very first day of shooting. Me and Zach and Cody and Todd all went out to this horse farm, and I just needed like a big wooden path that was straight, that he could walk down and it wouldn't look like asphalt. Originally it was supposed to be a road, but I figured in keeping with, we're out in the wilderness, I would just do something with more woods. So we went out to this horse farm that is actually owned by the college, and we shot the scene on a really, really terrible slider with Zach. Did a really great job of just slowly pushing in just to give it a little bit more depth and movement and dynamic to the scene. And I think it works really well. I'm really happy with the way this shot in particular turned out. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, of course, it was like the first thing we filmed.
You never answered my question. Who are you?
My name is Rome.
So that was Rome. I hope you enjoyed watching this little video that tried to explain some of the reasons behind why we did what we did, why the film looks the way it does, why the story is the way it is. And I hope it just gave you a look into the production, what went into making it, and all the hard work that my cast and crew really put their hearts out into. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed Rome, and I hope you enjoyed this video.